Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the rising and lowering prices of Bitcoin once again because it is the Wild West of the investment world. So there is a lot of speculation that the price of Bitcoin will go under $3,000. Is that going to be a good thing? Is that going to be a bad thing? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first and foremost, I want to show you this graph called Visualizing All Horrific Bitcoin Crashes. It's quite glorious. I came across it. And it really goes to show a number of things. How Bitcoin can crash and go up and down very suddenly. And yet at the same time, it has always gone up in time. So from in 2012 here, we have a 16-day correction in January from $7.38 to $3.80. And again in August of 2012, it was $16.41 to $7.10. And you can see all the percentages of the crash here. And then in 2013, and so the biggest crash happened in 2013 from the 30th of November to the 14th of January, down by 87% from $1,163 to $152.40. And I believe that was the time that Mt. Gox got hacked. I'm not entirely sure if that was the one, because I know a lot of poor things happened in 2013. As you can see, 2013 here, there was 2 corrections in just this visualization, and a total of 5 of them in 2013. And then it wasn't too bad. So that was from 2013 to the 14th of January of 2015, that 87% crash. Maybe that one wasn't it entirely. Not sure there. But either way, it goes to show that Bitcoin can take some pretty horrendous beatings and always come back from it. So we're at the current one all the way down on the bottom here. A very long correction. I believe the second longest correction. Of course, the first longest correction beats it out completely at 411 days, but this one is going on for 48 days now, or longer, if you want to consider, since this is only tied to the 6th of February. So 19,666 to $5,920. Although it did go up from there, so technically it wasn't, you know, it has gone up a little bit. It went to almost 12,000, and now it's borderline getting to that price once again. So Bitcoin's in quite the slump for sure, a very long slump, a slump we haven't seen in at least a couple years. So, or at least a good, well, yeah, a good couple years. So next thing I kind of want to show you is just a nice hash profitability calculator. And if you take a look at some of these prices that everybody's getting for these cards, and again, nice hash is a little different than actually mining, because while you are mining on NiceHash, people are paying a specific price for your mining, for your hash power, rather than you actually just getting the coins outright. But it's actually usually pretty spot on in terms of the, you know, the profits you can make with mining. So I do like to reference it and use it regardless. So a GTX 1080 Ti right now is only pulling in $2.18 a day, when they cost at the moment anywhere from $1,000 to, I've seen them as high as $1,300+. So it would take you a good, well over a year at this point to get your money back. Now, that's just to say at this current price and at this current profit with your card. Of course, these could go up or down. Difficulty goes up and down over time too. So that's right now. So mining hasn't been this low in, honestly, quite a while. And the 1080 is trailing behind that just a little bit at $2.04, and the Vega 64, AMD's flagship, is only sporting $1.72. You can even see the Bicol Giant B is $14.68. The Qubit miner is at $12.98, and the S9 miner is at SHA 256, $8.56. So it just goes to show everything is way, way down right now. So if you think it's just your profits or something like that, or something's wrong with you, it is certainly not the case. One thing I do want to reiterate on, I made a video of it, my last, or maybe 2 videos ago now at this point, was on the Antminer X3. It is a Kryptonite miner, and so a lot of people brought a lot of things to my attention on that video, and also scowling and scouring the internet, whatever you want to call it. I've also came across some very enlightening news that basically Bitmain was using these miners, or there's no proof, but basically the proof is in the difficulty increase of Monero mining. Monero mining increased its difficulty by 65% over the past couple months. The only way to explain that is that Bitmain had these X3 miners months ago, and we're using them to mine Monero at several $100s a day. Now they're at about $200 a day. That's with the 65% increase in mining. So imagine a couple months ago when, you know, it was 65% less, how much you would make. So, I mean, we're talking, you know, maybe $300 a day on these Monero miners. Then comes along the Monero fork to prevent it from being mined with ASICs, because it clearly was being mined with ASICs. So on the 28th, I believe, of March, this month, so just a couple weeks now, a week and a half or so, Monero will hard fork, and that doesn't mean that it's going to fork into a different coin or anything like that. It's going to be essentially the same coin, but the old code will be abandoned. You'll still have your coins and things like that, but it just sort of takes a leap and begins a technically new coin. Really, in reality, it's just a network upgrade for Monero, and it's a way to zig and zag around ASIC miners, because ASIC miners have to be programmed in a very specific manner. So if you change just a little bit of your code and make it slightly different, that ASIC can no longer hash that particular coin. So that's what they're trying to do with Monero, and that's what a lot of developers are doing recently. I think Electroneum developers have sworn to do that as well. So what happened is you know, Bitmain has gotten a hold of this information that Monero is going to do that. Now they're releasing the miners for $12,000 each, and then the next batch is like $8,000. And the thing is that those miners won't actually ship out for 2 months. That's long after the Monero fork, so they will no longer be able to hash Monero, and so therefore somewhat useless. Mind you, there still are other Kryptonite coins, but nothing like Monero, and even Electroneum to some degree. So they're basically selling people, and I think they're all sold out by now. They basically sold people $12,000 POSs, basically. Complete garbage. So anybody that bought one of those, try to get your money back immediately, because it was basically a scam. So what to mine here? You see the same thing. So I just put in one 1080 Ti. And we got Hush on Equihash at $1.96 for a 1080 Ti. Really, really grim right now. However, just know that, of course, mining difficulty increases over time. Don't ever really, you know, count that out. However, you're still mining approximately, of course, with a little bit of mining difficulty, you're still mining approximately the same coins as you would if the price of crypto was double or triple. If it was way higher, like it was in January, and you were making $5, $6 a day with your 1080 Ti, technically, you're still mining approximately the same amount of coins. However, those coins are worth less now. So if you just keep mining away, even though you see how low your profits are, and it may be very discouraging, just keep mining, because you're getting the same amount of coins, and when the price doubles or triples of cryptocurrency, like it does every few months for the most part, and the tweet here I showed you basically proves that. And you know, if you don't already know that in crypto by now, welcome to planet Earth. It's a really nice place. It's very warm in most places, cold in others if you prefer that. So when the price doubles or triples, your coins are going to double or triple, and it's basically like you were mining at that rate the entire time. So yes, a little bit of difficulty lowers the exact amount of coins that you've been making, like maybe 2 months ago. But either way, it's not like you're mining less coins, and that's why it's $1.96. It's because the coin isn't worth as much, and now it's $1.96. So just wanted to clarify that for anybody that you know, kind of is a little confused about that. That's okay. So I want to talk about this. Visa finance chief attacks Bitcoin bubble. Not surprising. Of course, an old man in a suit that has lived his life and made his millions with fiat doesn't like cryptocurrency. Wow. I'm shocked. So a top Visa executive has launched one of the most outspoken attacks yet from the financial establishment on the Bitcoin craze, saying cryptocurrency was used by every crook and dirty politician. I don't know about that. And speculators who have no clue. So, yeah, you know, I mean, nobody's ever robbed a bank before, right? No dirty politician has ever taken dirty money from anybody. That's never happened, right? No crook has ever used money or laundered actual fiat money. That's never happened, right? But now, yeah, of course, every crook is using Bitcoin now, right? So I don't see how that's relevant. It's sort of like the kettle calling the pot black. You know, don't throw stones in a glass house. You know, in an interview with the Financial Times, Vasant Prabhu, chief financial officer of the world's biggest payment network by market value, recalled encounters he had with an ill-informed retail investors that had been a real shock to him. The people asking me are the ones that scare the hell out of me, he quotes. Said, you know the guys like the limo driver to the airport. They have no idea what they're doing. Oh. Oh, man. They let you say that? I don't know about that, man. I mean, yeah, maybe the limo driver isn't a corporate executive like yourself, but I mean, really, Visa operates at the heart of the mainstream global payment system, connecting about 3 billion cardholders, 46 million payment locations, and 17,000 financial institutions. Recognizing the strength of feeling among crypto aficionados who wish to circumvent financial institutions, Mr. Prabhu said he lived not far from true believers in Silicon Valley who think people like me are dinosaurs. You kind of are. Don't get me wrong here. Like, I am a devil's advocate. I'm a clever character, right? I understand why these older people always, you know, these corporate, like Jamie Dimon and Warren Buffett and now Prabhu, who go on to TV or say in interviews that they think Bitcoin is a bubble. The one reason I get that is because A, they have lived their entire lives with fiat, and they have made their millions with fiat and with investing and things like that. So obviously these people are very good at investing. There's no way around that. And two, they have seen numerous bubbles in their lifetime. Especially with the dot-com bubble, that's probably the most prevalent one. So naturally, they know how to keep their wealth, and if they deviate too far from the norm, those are the people who lose their wealth. However, cryptocurrency is, in my opinion, a completely new idea that is not like a dot-com bubble, and is really the evolution of money. We are in its infancy, no doubt about it, but eventually, you know, it's going to take place. I mean, if you think about it, money is already digital, just like cryptocurrency, right? You may have $1,000 in your bank account. You don't have $1,000. It doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist until you go into the bank and say, "Hey, I would like $1,000 in my hand." Bad case of the itchy nose. Every time I go to record, itchy nose. And you know, it's the same way with the debt system. So a bank, you know, only has $100,000, but they can still loan, you know, $150,000. They don't have that money. It doesn't exist because they just put a digital. When you go into the bank and you get a $50,000 loan, even though they only have $100,000 in there. I know this is a very crude example, so just bear with me. All they do is transfer a digital number into your account. And then if you want that money, of course, they're going to have to get that money before that they can hand it to you. But that's just the way it goes. It's all been digital for quite a long time now. Recognizes strength and feeling among crypto aficionados. A young member of Prabhu's extended family enthused over a Thanksgiving dinner that an 8,000 crypto investment he made had doubled in value. This is the ultimate thing you hear about when you have a bubble. When the guy shining your shoes tells you what stock to buy, the Visa executive said. So he basically just called one of his family members a shoe shiner who doesn't know what he's talking about. If you double your money, will 100% increase. That is incredible. Normally, stock investors, if you invest in a mutual stock or stock, you should expect to make 5, maybe 10% a year. So if you double your money, you did really good. So Bitcoin has collapsed from a pre-Christmas high above 19,000 to trade about 8,100, but it is still up 8-fold from the start of last year, according to Bloomberg data. So Visa has a market capitalization of $279 billion. Has been peppered with questions from analysts and investors about whether its model will be disrupted by emerging payment systems. So honestly, Bitcoin itself is not that far from the entire Visa market capitalization. And then it says, so far it appears to have shrugged off any potential threat. Shares are up more than 1,000% since its initial public offering 10 years ago next week, helped by the digitalization of global payments. So this is where it gets really, I have to put my hands on my eyes like this, because first of all, your shares are up 1,000%. Wow. Fantastic, right? Bitcoin is up umpteen%, right? It blows that out of the water, okay? So if it took you 10 years to go up 1,000%, you just got blown out of the water, right? Whereas Bitcoin goes up 1,000% in a year. So, and then another thing, the next sentence in that, or rather the end of the sentence, it says, helped by the digitalization of global payments. Well, what is crypto? It's the digitalization of global payments. It's a digital currency. So basically, they turned fiat into a digital currency, and yet they argue that you couldn't turn crypto into a digital currency. Again, it's the kettle calling the pot black. If you guys don't get that reference, it's an old-timey reference where there is a black kettle and a black pot, and the kettle says, "Hey, you're black," and no, it's not a racist thing. It's basically saying that, like, you know, you're calling somebody out for something that you are. Like if you said, "Hey, you're a coward," but you're a coward too, that's the kettle calling the pot black. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's digitalization of global payments. So it just blows my mind. So let's go on to the next article. And this is what I wanted to talk about. So bearish analysts expect a Bitcoin price drop to 2,800. So is this really going to happen? Who knows? Is it going to be a good thing or is it going to be a bad thing? Let me analyze that first, and then we'll talk about the article. So, of course, I think everybody wants it to go bullish because all of our investments currently will go up in price, right? Great. I mean, who's going to deny that, right? But on the other end, why not just wait a little bit longer and have it drop to 2,800? For example, if Bitcoin dropped to 2,800, Litecoin right now is at about $160 as I speak. So if Bitcoin drops to 2,800, what would that be? Just about, let's call it an even 3 times as less, 3 times drop. Let's just say, and then that would mean that you know, Litecoin would be something like, let's just call it $50. So if Litecoin goes to $50, I mean, you can bet on me buying 10 Litecoin. And might as well just adding 10 Litecoin to my stockpile, and then just setting a sell price for $400 and waiting. I can wait. I got time. Time is what we all got. Most people don't know that time is what we got, but time is definitely what we got. And patience is a very hard virtue to master. So if it rises, keep a positive attitude when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to investing. Right? If it rises, you just made money. Boom, right? If it lowers and you buy, boom, you just got some discount crypto. There's no losing. There's no losing. That's the way you have to go into this and just say there's never any losing. Sure, sometimes it's frustrating when it goes down, but just remember that all you have got to do is just put in a few extra bucks and pick some more up. That's it. Like, there's no losing. So depending on whom you posed a question to, Bitcoin will either rebound or meet its demise. I doubt that. But as of right now, some analysts are convinced that Bitcoin price will drop well below 5,000 pretty soon. If Market Securities Dubai's Paul Day is to be believed, we will hit 2,800 in the not-so-distant future. The Bitcoin price decline so far. Anyone who has paid attention to Bitcoin this year noticed a peculiar trend. After hitting 20,000, the same Bitcoin is now just worth over 8,200. Such a price trend is not uncommon in the world of cryptocurrency, though. The price of Bitcoin has gone through a bearish cycle virtually every year. Each time this happens, the value retraces from an all-time high by up to 90%. Right now, we're looking at a 53% decline with no improvement in sight. And despite this negative trend, some speculators remain optimistic. John McAfee is a permeable. When it comes to permeable, I like that one. When it comes to the Bitcoin price, his prediction of a value of $500,000 in the next 2 years still holds true to this date. Whether or not such a price goal is even remotely possible is a different matter altogether. I do not believe that's possible. $500,000, the market cap would be, it would be astounding. It would be unbelievable. I just don't see it happening. So I think if Bitcoin went to $1 million, the price, the market cap would be 21 trillion. So 500,000, the market cap would be what, like 11 trillion, 10.5 trillion, something like that. So that's with all of the, again, that's with all of the Bitcoin mined, which they're not right now. I think there's 17 million out of 21 million totally mined. So mind you, the price would be a little bit lower than that, but you know, still pretty close. So $10 trillion, I just don't see it happen, and I'm very optimistic when it comes to crypto, but no, I just don't think so. So it will depend on merchant adoption, payment integrations, and new regulatory measures being deployed all over the world. Speaking of regulation, things remain unclear in this regard. South Korea still keeps an open mind, which is good to see. Additionally, we see India contemplating regulation of cryptocurrencies, yet no one knows how things will play out. In the U.S., cryptocurrency remains largely unregulated as well. The European Central Bank has no intention of intervening in this regard, which is rather interesting, a mixed bag of regulatory measures as one would come to expect at this point. I do want to comment on the South Korea. South Korea still keeps an open mind. However, I would kind of agree yet disagree with that. I would have, if this was my article, I would have added a little bit more to South Korea, because South Korea has banned and then sort of unbanned and never truly banned, but yet had a lot of regulations, and then they stopped some exchanges. They don't like to have the money go out of the country or into the country. South Korea is very odd. So the bearish Bitcoin price outlook, despite there being no real reason for it, the Bitcoin price is struggling for traction. Bloomberg analysts are concerned that this might only be the beginning of the end. More specifically, a prediction is made which puts the Bitcoin price at 2,800 in the near future. This trend is known as a death cross, although it remains to see how things will play out. So a death cross in the investment world is when the short term, the long term average is going down. The short-term average is going down below the long-term average, and they sort of cross each other as they're going down, and it somehow forms the death cross, and then that's a really bad sign in the investment world. Again, took a little bit of economics, but not to that degree. According to the analyst, the chart trend paints a worrisome look. The bubble of 2017 has triggered a massive sell-off. Although this trend could have materialized without such a big bull run last year as well. Market Securities Dubai's Paul Day fears a major Bitcoin price dip is looming just ahead. That is, assuming the current trends of 2018 will continue to repeat themselves in the coming weeks and months, which is pure speculation. This prediction does not take any of the positive Bitcoin developments into account, though. A lot of things are happening behind the scenes. All of these developments can have a positive impact on the Bitcoin price in the long run. For example, Lightning Network is now out for Bitcoin, and I was scrolling around on the Bitcoin Reddit, and so Lightning Network is out, and you can change your nodes now to Lightning Network, and there was a how-to, and it was one of the most confusing things I've ever read. I could probably do it, but I basically just scrolled through it and looked at it, and it was just a ton of jargon and how-tos and stuff. It was extremely confusing, and even other people were like, sounds a little too techy for me, and other people were like, this is extremely confusing. So they have some work to do to make it a lot easier for the layman's. So charting and technical analysis are valuable tools, but they will only tell part of the story. For now, we'll have to wait and see where the Bitcoin price will head during the remainder of 2018. So a couple notes that I want to add on this. So one of the big dips was clearly caused by 40 million in Bitcoin being sold off over the course of time. Now, I know a lot of people, some people disagree, some people agree with that. Personally, I don't believe that 400 million would have dipped it that much by itself. What happens, though, is when people see that candle go down like that, a big old candle, they start to sell too, because they believe that maybe they can short themselves or it's time to sell their profits. Maybe they bought in at very low and then they seen that candle dip and they're like, okay, we'll just get out now. I'll wait for it to dip until it's done and then I'll come back in. And so that's what a lot of people do. Everybody has the hive mentality. You're not the only one that thinks that way, and you'll never be the only one that thinks that way. So when you think it's a good time to sell, trust me, 10 million other people think it's a good time to sell. When you think it's a good time to buy, a billion people think it's a good time to buy. So no matter what you do, you're always doing something that tens of thousands of millions of other people are doing, basically. So when they see that drop, everybody follows suit. Monkey see, monkey do in the investment world. Excuse me. Another thing is that basically the same thing. Mt. Gox still has 166,000 Bitcoin to sell. That is $1.5 billion of Bitcoin. Now, I have heard of people saying that they're not going to do the same thing this time and just market sell it on exchanges, that they're going to do it a different way and try to sell it to whales or auction it off or this, that, or the other thing over the counter. However, that again, that's speculation too, because it wasn't directly from the person, from the trustee themselves. Where that information came from, I'm not really sure. But if they do sell it the same way they did, even over the course of a couple months, 1.5 billion is no joke compared to if 400 million can cause a sell-off like that. Mind you, there was other FUD too. There was regulations and frauds and FUD and such going around that time as well. So it's not only that 400 million. But if we can combine this FUD that's occurring now with 1.5 billion, nearly 4 times as much, and I actually calculated it, technically it was 1.577 billion. So basically an inch from being 4 times as much coin. So I like to just round it. It sounds better. It makes it sound more evil. So 4 times as much will really, really rock the price of coin. However, that's going to be a great time to buy. You might think, everybody always thinks that when it goes down, it's never going to come back up. And everybody thinks that when it goes up, it's never going to come back down. You'd be a fool to think that way. So if Bitcoin goes down to 2,800, if it goes down to 1,000, if it goes down to under 1,000, buy. Just buy. Of course, whatever you can afford. Don't go crazy. That's just crazy to go crazy. Doesn't make sense. But it would be a great time to buy, especially if Litecoin went all the way back down to $30. I remember a time when Litecoin, well, first of all, at the beginning of 2017, Litecoin was $4, and at the end of 2017, it was $400 for a brief period. So I remember when Litecoin got to about $92, and then the whole Chinese cryptocurrency and crypto exchanges ban happened. And that's when Bitcoin was at about 5,000, and then it went all the way back down to like 3,200 or something like that. So Litecoin was at $92, and it went all the way down to about $32. And, people were selling off and basically giving up. So imagine if you picked up hundreds or thousands of dollars in Bitcoin or in Litecoin at that time at $30 and then sold it for $400, over 10 times the price. We're looking at that point, like 13 times the price. Quite the profit indeed. So never underestimate the power of a dip. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as usual, I'll see you guys next time.